Hey everyone, welcome to Actifio On Tech for Thursday, and it is the 16th of August. So this is Jay Livens. I've been on many, but I've been on hiatus for a few weeks.
Yeah.
And so I'm here today with my esteemed, maybe that's a little strong, but my colleague,
By some.
Chris Murphy, who has been on quite a bit recently. What's going on, Chris?
Oh, not much, Jay. I'm just glad to be here and glad you're back. So.
Yes, it's good to be here. So listen, I heard you were telling me earlier we've got some like crazy impressive beer going on today.
Yes.
Tell us what it is,
In
please.
the fine tradition of On Tech,
Yes.
we're starting with a beer. This is Trillium's Headroom Double IPA. So
Now,
this
Jason has this roll thing where he says you have to roll
already
it.
pre-rolled. I got you covered, man. So this is Trillium's most hop-saturated beer. They brew it one time a year,
Okay.
and this year it sold out in about 3 hours.
Wow.
Thanks to our good friend Gio, the cameraman, we now have the opportunity to have this beer. I've had this beer in previous years. I've not had this year's iteration yet. So
Cheers.
I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. Oh my. Very, very hoppy. But not bitter. No burn.
Not too bad, actually.
Balanced.
It's good. It's good.
Yeah,
It's
very
good.
fruity.
All I can say, though, is when I think about this, I'm dating myself a little bit, but I think of Max Headroom back in the Coke commercials.
That's right.
Many moons ago.
I think isn't Max Headstrom?
No, it was Headroom, I think.
Oh.
Someone Google that.
Let's
Someone
go get
Google
the
that.
fact check on that one.
Yeah, exactly.
Either way, delicious beer. I believe all the famous hops in here: Galaxy, Mosaic, Columbus.
Cool.
And yeah, if you missed it, you'll have to wait another year.
There you go. It's got the
So-
cool sort of mixing board
Yeah, retro
on there,
vibe
which is sweet.
Very good.
So we got lots of stuff to talk about this week, but I think we need to open the show with a very important acknowledgement, which is today the big news was that Aretha Franklin passed away, which is really sad because she was
Very
an
sad.
amazing artist.
The Queen.
She really was.
Yep.
Unbelievable. So, you know, people think about that. She's great. She really did so much for sort of the music scene, and I was a fan, I have to say. Sad that she's no longer with us, but
72 hit songs.
it's amazing.
Wow.
But her legacy lives on in
Her
her
legacy
music.
will live on forever.
So that's cool.
That's great.
She also passed away on the same date that Elvis passed away.
Elvis Presley, there you go. It's
Hopefully
very,
not in the same circumstances.
yeah, well, that is true. I read something about that. I think it was more just a physical ailment like cancer or something. So it's
Yeah.
really unfortunate.
Yeah.
So
She had left the touring scene kind of abruptly
she did.
this year. and
Right.
So
She canceled some shows,
Unfortunate.
things like that.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. So moving on to our
Tech news.
What
do we got?
I want to start with one that I thought was really interesting. Now, before I get into that, it's a little known fact that before all this technology stuff, I actually spent 7 years working in finance. So I have some experience in
explains
finance.
so much about you. Jay.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
But the big thing was Elon Musk and Tesla announcing online that the company was potentially going private.
Yes.
And so he announced this via a tweet on August 7th.
Classic Elon tweeting.
Can you believe that?
Nonsense. Yeah.
And then on the 13th, he said, well, maybe the Saudi Arabian government is going to fund it. And then today, the 15th, there's an SEC investigation into what he said and whether it's legal and all that kind of stuff. So let me ask you, what do you think of the idea of, first off, Tesla going private? Good idea, bad idea? What do you think?
So it's always hard. I mean, definitely there's been a tendency against the public market in recent years. And of course, you got the somewhat success story of Dell, huge company going private. I think the story's not done on that yet, so we'll have to see, right? But certainly there are pressures for a public company that you just may not want to experience. They're not good for the long-term view. We all see it. You know, you post quarterly results
Sure.
that missed
Totally.
expectations by 1%, and your stock's down.
Yeah.
We talked about this at a previous On Tech, right?
Right,
with Facebook.
right.
So I think it definitely can make sense in the right circumstance. That being said, it's a lot of money. There's also a lot of money riding on the other side, which I think is partly why the SEC is looking into it, right? So there's
Right.
a lot of short money. I think
Right.
Tesla's the most shorted stock in history. Yeah, so a lot of people betting against Tesla's
I totally agree.
value. These tweets raise the value, albeit temporarily.
Right.
A lot of those short positions might be starved out by that.
I totally agree. And in fact, it's interesting. If you go, I'm always interested in Tesla because I think people love their cars and, you know, but it's very polarizing. And
Yeah.
there's all these
Yeah.
people who post on these, like Motley Fool, who are saying, you know, they're lying and they're screwing this up and they're actually can't really, deliver the cars they claim, and all these accusations that a lot of this stuff is, fabricated, or somehow they're not achieving the goals they're set to achieve. Now, to be fair, they've struggled with some of these sort of manufacturing goals. We've talked about that too.
Yep.
But, it's interesting to see. And I think you can certainly avoid a lot of that if you go private. Certainly you're right. But
that being said, you got to have the money, and they're burning money pretty fast right now.
that is true. That is true.
If they don't deliver those cars, they'll be in trouble.
That is true. So what do you got? What did you find?
So I was just browsing the headlines and saw a New York Times article about some of the internal Google reactions to one of Google's new projects. So I think it was maybe 2010, Google pulled out of China, and that was in response to censorship and meddling in with the emails there. They had a bunch of scandals there. So now Google's had this internal project where they're going to try to make a censored or censorable search engine for China. A bunch of internal stuff was in the works, but people didn't really know the details of it. So now there's a petition at Google to either stop doing this or to get some idea of what's actually going on. Can we get some transparency into this? What are we going to ship to this market? I think that's great. Obviously, software engineers aren't a unionized labor force, so there's often a lot of pressure that can't be met by other means. These Googlers stepped up a few months ago and stopped the Pentagon contract for the artificial intelligence bombings, which is great. And now they're trying to get some of the same momentum there. So I don't know what you think about, search engines, censorship, freedom. There's a lot of stacked words there, but
there really is. I think the challenge is that the first question is, does Google want to be in China or not?
Yeah.
And if they want to be in China, the government there is very strict. There's a lot of censorship going on there.
Yep.
So it's sort of like, well, maybe I'd like to be in China and I'd like to be open, but those two things don't seem to happen.
Can't do it.
You can't do both.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, you either say, I'm going to give up because I'm not going to go to China because I refuse to sort of sacrifice my values, which I can appreciate, or it is, the market is huge, I need to be there, and I'm willing to, make some changes, make some sacrifices to do that. And I think that's a very difficult question.
It is.
Particularly for someone like Google, because it's such a huge and growing market for them. And, that is a significant revenue opportunity that if they don't go there, which I can understand if they decided not to, would be meaningful, be a meaningful impact to them. So it's very, very difficult. I don't like censorship either, but I feel like if they want to be in that market, if that's what strategically they need to do, like, what choice do they have?
It's hard. Some would say that Google's leverage is unique, right? So if they make a stand here, they might be able to force some things to happen that wouldn't otherwise happen.
Maybe.
Google in the past has been that type of company, right? They're use their influence to make stands. So I think some of the Googlers were concerned, okay, where do we stand now on these ethical issues?
But isn't Alibaba already very big there from a search engine standpoint? Like, aren't there already Baidu? Thanks, Gio. Those kinds of companies are already there. I wonder at this point whether it might be a little late, and at this point maybe you're better off standing on your morality, which makes sense because the market may already be lost. I don't know, but it's an interesting question.
And who knows, years in the future when the government gets overthrown and everything changes, right?
Who knows? So. Yes, exactly. It's interesting. So the other topic of mine that I thought was interesting was I was reviewing one of my usual car sites, and they had in New York an example of a battery-powered pickup truck. And there's a company called Workhorse. That was, whatever, interesting. But
great name.
Yeah. But the one I really liked was called the Surefly. And let me just put up a picture of it here. I know, Gio, can you put it? I'm not sure how far it needs to be. So this is the Surefly. And what it is basically a drone that you drive. It has 8 engines with 8 engines and 8 propellers. It seats 2, and supposedly it'll be available in 2 years. It's going to cost, a lot of money, but frankly not crazy money considering jets are millions of dollars.
Sure.
$200K, and they claim that it can go 70 miles an hour and fly 1 to 2 hours. One article said 2 hours, the website said 1 hour, whatever it is. It feels like sort of a short distance kind of commuter thing. That's one of the things they want to do. So I look at that, I thought that could be pretty cool to have one of those. And you can reserve yours now, Chris, for the
Oh.
low cost of $1,000.
Oh, just like Tesla.
Yeah, there you go. So what do you think? You want one of those?
So hypothetically, that would be great,
Yeah.
right? Especially if you're living somewhere like Boston
Right.
and you need to get to Logan.
Right.
Something like that, right? We fly 20 miles. It's a short distance. Of course, any Bostonian knows that'll take you over an hour.
Right.
So you could fly there in 10 minutes. That'd
Right.
be awesome.
Right.
But I am curious about the legality of all that, right? So what's the FCC going to say about or
FAA.
FAA?
Yeah, yeah.
FCC is the other one.
Totally.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
What's the FAA going to say about it, right?
Right.
Is this going to be like a private plane, or can you like go buzz through downtown Boston and like look
Sure.
into skyscrapers?
It's true.
Interesting.
And I also wondered along those lines is what is the FAA going to require for a license?
For training, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like you need some kind of pilot's license? Who knows? One of the interesting safety features is, so it runs on a motor, a gas motor, that
Okay.
spins these propellers. But if the motor happens to die for some random reason, there's actually battery backups that'll power it for, I think, 10 minutes to land. And
Okay.
even if all of that stops, you can hit the button and they'll shoot a parachute up and you'll parachute down. So it's like
Huh.
triple safety in theory.
That's interesting. I noticed with that picture you just put up, it was sort of like a quadcopter with
Right.
the rotor, right? So, I mean, a traditional helicopter can actually auto-rotate.
Right.
If the motor fails,
Right.
you can actually still land.
Right.
I guess since they can't do that,
You're not
they have
focused
to
on
put
that.
in these batteries.
Right.
They're not focused on safe landings.
Yeah.
Well, so they have redundancy.
Yes.
In software, we always like redundancy. That's cool.
Yes, exactly.
I would be interested.
I'd be interested too.
Yeah, $200,000.
I know. I mean, that's a lot of money, but again, I said that's not insane amounts of money.
If you're comparing it to other flight modes,
Exactly. Exactly.
cheaper than the flying car I don't have.
Well, there's a company that around here that does that. Was that Terra Fugia or something? An MIT spinoff, I think, is based around here. Who knows? They've been talking about flying cars forever.
Have any of these actually made a model that you can try? I mean,
I don't think so. They always talk about it. They
Coming
talk about it
soon.
forever. I know.
Cold
I know.
Fusion.
Totally.
That'll make Treehouse run so easy.
There you go. You can make a high-speed run to get quality beer.
I think with that distance, you might have to refuel. So Treehouse would have a little pumping station for you, and
There you go.
Perfect.
There you go.
I love it.
I know. I was thinking about that too.
They have the space too for a landing pad.
In the new facility or just? In
Oh,
the,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they got space.
They
Yeah.
got space.
They cut down some trees, but they got space.
Oh, that's cool. So what do you think about the news today? I thought was interesting is that that Amazon is all about seemingly owning the world, and between Amazon Web Services, but then more recently Whole Foods Market, and then they bought that pill pack company. And the newest rumor is that they're out trying to buy Landmark Theaters, which has 50 theaters in 27 markets, focused more on art kind of films.
Okay.
And so they're looking to buy it. So potentially, this is the talk. Who knows what's going to happen? But what do you think about that?
On the face of it, seems a little odd, right? Amazon playing in a sort of traditional media market.
Right, right.
I guess you could say this would be an avenue for them to push their own content, right?
Right.
So Amazon, I believe, produces their own content just
Right.
like Netflix.
Sure.
I can't speak for Amazon, but I know Netflix had a lot of trouble getting into theaters with their own content
Right.
because they're sort of quote disrespecting the traditional media market. They also had a lot of problems with like the award shows. They weren't eligible to win, so maybe Amazon's trying to get a little power in there by owning some cinemas.
I know, but it feels like
Seems strange.
maybe I'm wrong, but most of the Amazon content I've watched
Yeah.
are primarily TV shows.
Right.
And you're not typically going to want to put a TV show in a movie theater. So then the question becomes, well, maybe they're going to up their movie game
Yeah.
and try to do a lot more movies. And maybe they are. I have no idea.
End of the day, you're not going to make.
Does Amazon
a
do
ton of
movies,
money on
Sean?
that.
Sean is our expert on movies.
Manchester by the Sea won an Academy Award.
Well, there you go.
Amazon movie.
But that was in a bunch of traditional theaters, right? So they didn't have a problem of
Right.
getting that. I mean, I saw it in a regular theater.
Well, there you go. Thanks, Sean, who's off camera.
Hey,
but
Sean,
that's
love
good.
it.
Who was it that won?
Manchester by the Sea, according to Sean. So if they do that,
Great
you think
movie. Don't watch it if you're sad, because
There
you
you
will
go.
be more sad.
So if they're doing that, you think that they're going to probably have to accelerate this movie development and do
I guess
many
so.
more.
Yeah, that's very interesting. They're gonna sell Amazon popcorn from Whole Foods and
Of course.
sugar-free sodas and
Although I've been
kombucha.
since that went nationwide. I've been to Whole Foods a bunch of times,
Okay.
and I've always brought my Amazon Prime setup,
Yeah.
and I've never saved any money. I think it's all a bait and switch to try to figure out what I'm buying, so
Whole
they can,
paycheck, man.
yeah, and so they can
don't
figure
know.
out how to pitch me on other stuff.
I'm just a lowly software engineer. I can't afford to shop at Whole
Oh.
Foods, so I don't know anything about that.
So I had another one, but I think we're at 15 minutes. So keep going. All right. So the last one I had was...
Time for one more topic, Jim.
There you go. Are you an iPhone guy?
No.
I think you are. You're not?
No.
So I'm not an iPhone guy either. In fact, Jason and I have talked in the past about how we're both Android guys and we both have Google Pixel phones.
Might be the only 3 guys in the whole company.
I know, exactly. So Jason and I both happen to have Pixel 2 XLs, which is sort of the newest one until a month from now when they have the Pixel 3. But the topic of conversation you see a lot is that Android just this week, or I was late last week, released Android Pie, which is the newest version of Android. And so there's lots of talk about whether that's good or bad or whatever. I actually am running it.
So you've got it because you have the Pixel.
I've got it.
I have a Samsung, which means I'll see it in 3 years, right?
If then.
Yeah, if then. I'll buy a new Samsung.
So they brought their whole new sort of gesture-based navigation.
Yeah,
so now you're like the home button you're used to and the application button, it's all gone. And so now it's like swiping. Where's my phone? It's back there somewhere. So it's all about...
You have to get used to a whole new interface.
I know. It's a little strange. The other kind of cool thing is it's got this thing I have a beta for. Do you mind grabbing it, Gio? It's back there on my desk. Yeah. This beta thing where it actually will report how much you're using your phone and what you're doing. And then you can set something called, I think it's doze mode. So it reminds you at a certain hour, at like 6 or whatever, you set it.
Time to stop using.
And make it stop using by making everything black and white.
Oh,
so,
I like that.
Yeah, and automatically silence it. So here, too hard to see, but I'll show it to Chris. This is our new navigation thing. And now it's one swipe up. Oh, sorry, a quick swipe up does that, but you bring a swipe up like this. Mid-range shows you all your previous apps. A double far swipe up brings the applications.
Okay.
And then you could even do a quick access by swiping across.
Oh,
like
yeah.
this.
Oh, I like that.
I kind of like it, but I'm reading online that there's a very mixed feeling about it. But overall,
Jay, don't let anyone else tell you how to feel about your phone.
Oh, I don't care about that.
Come on.
I'm a total nerd. Are you kidding?
Yeah,
I got it the day it was out, and
Good.
I am all about my technology and my phones. So I was very pleased with it. I'm pretty happy.
How's the battery life? Any improvements?
I feel like it hasn't materially changed.
Okay.
And that's
they always
fine.
say that, oh, this release is better battery, but
you know what else I've had a good experience with overall is Android Auto. I have that in my car.
Yeah.
It works quite well, actually.
Yes.
I'm quite pleased with it.
Again, lowly software engineer, don't have that.
Too bad.
I did rent a car with Android Auto,
Yeah.
and I was very surprised. It's very nice.
Right.
Got the music, navigation.
Totally. And it works pretty well. The only final thing I would say I've noticed is that it has USB-C only.
Right.
And so you got to use that dongle. And so for previous software releases, and I would say it's not this one but the one before, it was bad. Half the time I plug it in, and half the time it wouldn't work.
Oh.
So it made, and I'm a wired headphone kind of guy. Made my wired headphone not work.
Jeez.
I'm too nerdy, huh?
God.
Come on.
Got to get off that train.
No, but it's like the pairing and all that stuff and trying to make it work. It's just a pain in the fanny. But in the last couple releases, and certainly in Pi, it's solid.
Okay.
I plug it in, and it just works.
There you
Which is
go.
the way it should be, right? It should just work that way. But as a software engineer, things don't always
Nothing's perfect.
they don't always work the way they're supposed to. So,
But I'm glad you're on the newest version. You can shake out all the bugs so that when I finally get it,
yes,
everything's going to work.
Exactly. Well, there you go. So with that, I think that wraps up our Actifio On Tech here for August 16th? 16th. So now, cheers everyone.
Jay.
Thanks, Chris. Sadly, my last hurrah of summer will be next week, so I will not be here.
Okay.
So I'm not sure who's going to be here.
You're
Probably
just
Chris.
Stepping out again.
Exactly.
That's okay.
But once that's over, it's all in. I'm all in every time. So thanks, everyone. Have a great Thursday and a great weekend.
See you next Thursday.